Hello everybody, my name is Alan, I'm from Sauber-Lab and today will be another video about Synology NAS. In this video specifically we're going to show how you can install OpenVPN in your Synology NAS. And before you start to ask Alan, why I want to install OpenVPN in my Synology NAS, the answer is simple. You can simulate that you are in your network anywhere in the world. So in this way you don't need to use Quick Connect, you don't need to use any HTTP protocol, you just need to connect to your VPN and that you can access all the network or at least work with your NAS in the same way that you could have if you are external for your house. So if you like this idea and want to learn a little bit more about it, we're going to show in this video, but first of all, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribe for the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and let's understand a little bit more about it. Before I start to show how you can install OpenVPN in your Synology NAS, we need to be clear that you need to be able to do port forwarding your router. If perhaps your ISP or your router don't allow you to do port forwarding, you're not going to be able to do this configuration. So you need to choose another option that you don't need to do this specific configuration. If you look in the links in the description, you can have different options that you can install VPN without need to configure any port forwarding. Anyway, we're gonna presume that you can do port forwarding, and therefore we're gonna start to explain what is OpenVPN. OpenVPN, it's a VPN service that allows you to connect anywhere in the world to your network. And this system is really secure, used with a lot of enterprise, and that it works with a key plus user and authentication. So not necessarily that only if you have your key you can access your system, unless you have your user and password as well. So make this system really secure for it. So have this one in mind. We go in our Synology NAS and try to understand what we need to do step by step. If I come here in my Synology NAS, this is a virtual machine that has been created only for these videos, and that this virtual machine have basically not so many applications installed. First thing that we need to do in order to install this system is come here in a pack center, and that we're gonna look for VPN. So VPN, and we can install this application that's VPN service. We're gonna take some minutes until they finish install. Once that install, we can start to configure it. So let's wait. Once that you install this OpenVPN, you can open the OpenVPN and that will show this page. What it means, you have three options of VPN that you can install using this Synology VPN. The first one will be PPTP. Second one that we're gonna install will be the OpenVPN. And the third one will be L2TP or IPsec. What we're gonna use specifically, it's this OpenVPN, so we can start to install it. Before we start to install, we need to come here in General Settings and define what kind of network interface that I want to use. If you have more than one interface, you need to choose the one that you want to use. Perhaps you have 10 GB internet card, so you want to use this one and that's others. But remember that the IP that you choose, you need to set exactly the same in your router, so choose correctly. Other thing is the type of account. In my case, I only have local users, and it means that only the local users will have access. But if perhaps you add any service, any authentication service as Microsoft or other things, you need to choose between one of those. You cannot have both configured, so or local user or other authentication system. So have this one in mind. Other thing, we want to grant permission for any new users, and that's we can set up this enable out block. In the previous video I explained a little bit about this out block, but basically if someone tries to log in 10 times in 5 minutes, they will block that specific IP address, and if you don't click this enable block expired, they will be blocked unless you come here in block and block list and you delete this specific IP address that has been blocked. If you know that you're always going to access for your company and have a static IP, you can allow this static IP, but I suggest you don't do it. So have this one in mind, we can come back in our VPN and start to properly configure it. To configure this OpenVPN, we go here in OpenVPN and we press Enable OpenVPN. As a standard, they will populate all the information, but we're gonna modify some information. First thing, this will be your dynamic IP address. If you have no reason to change, or if you don't use this specific IP address, you can leave this one, otherwise you can change for something that will make sense for you. But in my case, I will leave exactly the same because I don't use it in my network, so will not affect anything. Here will be the maximum connection numbers. You can choose between 5 and 10. Depending on what kind of Synology that you have, we will allow more or less. Other thing, it's the maximum connections of an account. So one account will allow you to have maximum 3 connections. If perhaps you need more connection for each account, you can set up it, but normally one user will try to use in the phone, will use in one computer, and that's it. If you need much more, then you can set up in this stage. Here's the port. You can leave this standard port, but I suggest you to change for alternative port. In my case, I will try a different port, so it will be 7780, and I will leave the UDP protocol. If perhaps once that you configure your port forwarding and this UDP is still locked as a protocol, you always can change for TCP and try this one. So sometimes UDP will work without any issue, and sometimes TCP will work without any issue. The rest of configuration will leave exactly the same, because unless I have a real valid reason to change, I will leave the same way. So in this way, I will leave this enable compression, and here I will allow the client to have a service LAN. Why I allowed it? I want that if someone is connected for this VPN, they will be able to access any device in my LAN. So if I don't allow it, the user will only be able to access this specific IP address that will be 192.168.1.100. If I select it and I have a Raspberry Pi or other device connected for the same network, they will be able to choose which network that they want to access without any problem. Other thing, you can enable this verify TSL authentication. This one will make a little bit more secure your system, but don't mean that you really need to do it. Only thing that you need to have in mind that if perhaps you activate it, you need to export all the configuration and reconfigure all your users if you already did it. In my case, it's the first time that I configure it, so I don't need to worry about it, and I can apply it. This verified service CN, it's only important if you have Let's Encrypt and you have port 8 and 443 open. Most of the case you don't need to do it because basically without your key and without your users, it will be really difficult to simulate that that user or that key is for that specific IP address, so no need to do it. In our case, we only go to apply it and wait a few seconds for this configuration to finish. Now they will say that you need to make sure that your firewall is open for this port 7780, and then you can external access. Before we start to export any configuration, we need to configure our firewall in our Synology NAS. So we come here in Control Panel, in Firewall, and we enable it. If you want to don't configure anything and you think that your router is secret enough to protect it, you don't need, but I suggest you to enable this option. Come here in Edit Rules, and that's we're gonna create a new rule. This rule will be for a specific application, so we'll select it, select, and I go for my VPN. Depending on what kind of VPN that you're using, you need to select the different ports, but in my case, I'm using port 7780, so I select this one and put OK and OK. This way, everyone that tries to use the port 7780 will be able to use my VPN. So now I need to create another rule to guarantee that the users will be able to access my Synology. To do it, I will come in specific IP address, select, come here, and I will type 10.8.0.0, and here I will put 255.255.255.0. This way I will guarantee that all the subnets will be able to access it, and I will put OK, OK, and now I have those configurations added for my system. Next step, I need to configure my dynamic DNS. Why I want to configure my dynamic DNS? Unless I have a static IP, if my router restart, potentially can change my IP address, and if I change my IP address, all my configuration is not valid anymore. So I strongly suggest you come here in external access and configure your dynamic DNS. Unless you already have a dynamic DNS that's direct for a house, you need to come here in Add, and you can choose a provider. Have a list of providers that you can choose, but in our case we're gonna select the Synology provider, and I'm gonna add Sauber-Lab. Here, once that I add Sauber-Lab, I will test the connection, and that's in this way we'll validate if this connection or this dynamic DNS is valid. Once that appears normal, now I can come here and activate it. So now my dynamic DNS will be this sauberlab.synology.me, and once that appears the status as normal, it means that everything is working as should be. Now next step, we need to go in our router to try to configure our port forwarding. To do it, we come here in my router. Anyway, I already have OpenVPN activate, but I'm not gonna use it. I will create a new entry. I will put OpenVPN 2, I'll leave as enable, and I will select the port. As I'm using port 7780, I will leave exactly the same, and for port forward will be 7780. Now will be the IP address of my machine, so will be 192.168.1.100, and I select the protocol that I want to allow. Because I'm using UDP, I'll select this protocol UDP and put add entry. Now once that I have the entry, now I can export my configuration. I come here back in my Synology, come my VPN, and here I can export this configuration, and I only click export configuration, and I save in my downloads only for now. I come back here in my download and I export this file. Once that I export, we'll have two files, one README and another Open configuration or OpenVPN configuration. Here I will edit it, and the only information that I need to change will be these specific lines, what I needed to add my dynamic DNS or my website that I configured. Once that I change it, I can save it. But before we save, we're gonna explain this specific function. This specific function, if I leave it this way, it means that only traffic that will go through the OpenVPN will be the traffic directly for my network. So if I try to access my SMB or my server, they will go through the VPN. If I come here and deselect or enable this option, it means that now all the traffic will go for my OpenVPN. This one is good if you wanted to block or prevent all the traffic and guarantee that everything will go through your server or your local network. What will add a little bit more latency for your application, but at least a little bit more secure. Remember, it's not a VPN system that will simulate that you are in a different country or different place and protect all the information against of your ISP. They still be able to see what traffic that you're doing, but if you are in a hotel, that hotel specifically will not know what you're doing. But have a compromise. If you have more than one users connected to this one and all the users watching YouTube, it means that your band will be smaller, and that you're gonna have a penalty of speed in your traffic. So unless you really want that all the users go and simulate that you are in your local network, I suggest you to leave this option unchecked. So now we can save it, and once that I save, I can go directly in my OpenVPN and install it. Here to install, I come in Product, Connection Client, and I download any options that you have. If you're using Windows, if you're using Mac, or if you're using Linux. In my case, as I already installed it, I have this page. Now I can import a file. To import a file, select this option, come here in my OpenVPN and import this configuration. Because I already configured it, they will appear this configuration. Here you can modify the name, and here I can make the login with my user. Before I do the login with my user, I come here and I come in privileges. It means that all those users will be able to access my OpenVPN. If I want that admin or any other user will not be able to access it, I can unselect, but in my case makes sense for I leave all the users to be able to access through the OpenVPN, because I want that everyone access my network. So in this way, I will leave those activate, come back here my import file and put connect. If you don't save your password all the time, they'll ask your password, so I'll come here and type my password again, and put OK, and I put continue. What I'm gonna do, This user will connect to my Synology, and here will be the traffic for download and upload. This traffic will be specifically to my Synology NAS. So if I come here in log, they will appear all the information. So if my user connect, they will appear a log what time they connect and what time they disconnect, and here will be the local IP address for this user. Also, if I come here in connection list, will appear the users that connect. This will be the client IP address, and this one will be my dynamic IP address and the protocol that I'm using. If I want to disconnect that specific user, I can come here and put disconnect. At the moment we have our WireGuard working, and that we can have access for your local network. Then the next step will be configure our SMB or access through the SMB. We can access exactly the same IP address that I have here and put enter. And in this way they will ask the login. Because I already did my login, they don't ask again, and now I can access all my system. Exactly the same way that you're gonna access if you're local, and that will be good speeds and much more secure than you only use the quick connect to access your service. So in this way we arrive at the end of the video. If you like this video, don't forget to leave your like, consider to subscribe for the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and see you next time. Bye.